Morning YouTube! I don't think it's worth doing any videos in this series on repair of major bodywork damage and full-scale resprays. I think there are thousands of videos already out there on YouTube that show you how to do that sort of thing, and frankly if you've got the facilities and equipment to do that sort of bodywork repair yourself, you probably don't need me to show you how to use it. However, I did think it might be worth covering a few videos on rectification of minor paint problems, so stone chips, scuffs and scratches, minor bodywork repairs that you can do for yourself in the garage. And so in the first of those, today we're going to be repairing this scuff in this headlight pod. And where the pod's been going up and down, you can see it's been catching the clamshell, and that has put some scuffs in the clear coat on this metallic colour, Medina green. And we're going to repair it using a technique known as wet sanding. So you're going to need some wet or dry paper, you're going to need some 1500 grit wet or dry paper, some 2000 grit wet or dry paper and some 3000 grit wet or dry. You're going to need some fine to medium finishing compounds such as Ferricla G10. You're going to need a compounding mop, a foam mop for applying the compound, attached to something like a polishing machine or a random action sander or a dual action sander, or even, as in this case, an electric drill. If you don't have one of those, don't worry too much about it. It is possible to do it with compound and clean microfiber cloth, but it will need quite a lot of elbow grease as well if you do that. Then we're going to need some polish, and then we're going to finish off with some carnauba wax. Now, if you haven't done this before, then pay attention to the next bit because it's important. A badly done repair generally looks worse than no repair at all. So here is a cross section of what the paint looks like on the car. Now the Elan uses a clear over base system, so that means that if we took a cross section through the paint, we've got the glass fibre panel at the bottom, then there's a layer of primer on top of that, then on top of that is a layer of base coat which contains the colour and the metallic flakes if you have a metallic coloured car, and then on top of that is a layer of clear coat, and it's the clear coat that gives protection to the base coat, but it also gives all the gloss and the shine to the paint. Now at the moment our clear coat has got all these scratches in it, and the difference between a shiny surface and a dull surface is that a dull surface is just a scratched surface. So what we're going to do is take the wet or dry paper and we're going to sand out all of those scratches. And after we've sanded out all the scratches with the wet or dry, we'll have two things. We'll still have a few lumps and bumps in it, a few scratches from the sanding, and we'll also have some much thinner clear coat than we had before. Now, it's important that we don't sand through the clear coat. This isn't going to work if the scratches have gone all the way through the clear coat and into the base coat underneath. So if the scratches are so deep that they've gone into the base coat, then don't try this, because generally speaking, all of the gloss in the paint is provided by the clear coat. So if you sand all the clear coat off, or you have to sand all the clear coat off to remove the scratches, so all you're left with base coat, you won't be able to get the finish back to a decent gloss and a decent shine. And the repair will always look really obvious because it'll be really dull compared to the surrounding paint. So only do this if your scratches aren't so deep that you can sand them all the way out and still have enough clear coat left in order to get a decent gloss on it. Now, sometimes it's a bit difficult to know how deep the scratches are, and really the only way to tell is find some part of the car that hasn't been clear coated. So for instance with this headlight pod, the bits you're supposed to see have been clear coated all over, but the inside of the pod has been sprayed with the base coat, and just by comparing the two you should be able to get a feeling really for how thick the clear coat is and whether you've got enough depth of clear coat to be able to sand that scuff out without sanding all the clear coat off. It's really important that you don't sand the clear coat off though, because generally speaking you can't blend clear coat. If you sand the clear coat off, you're going to have to re-clear the entire panel, because you can't just do a patch repair of the clear coat into the existing clear coat. You'll always see the join between the two clear coats. So if you do sand all the clear coat off, you're going to have to re-clear the whole thing, and that's really a job you don't want to do when you set out to spend 2 minutes repairing a scuff. Got it? Good. And if all those prophecies of doom and gloom haven't put you off, then take your courage in one hand, take your 1500 grit wet or dry paper in your other hand, get yourself some warm, clean, soapy water, and let's get wet sanding. Now, if you're sanding a large flat area, then wrap the wet or dry around a sanding block, otherwise your fingers will just tend to gouge into the paint. However, if you're sanding a curve like this, do it by hand. Just hold the paper in your hand against the flat of your fingers. Now, remember, of course, the 3 golden rules of wet sanding. They are: do not sand through your clear coat, do not sand through your clear coat, and do not sand through your clear coat. Now, it is easiest to sand through the clear coat at sharp edges like this. Because of surface tension effects, the paint is always thinner along ridges in panels like this. And also, just because as you go over the edge with the sandpaper, you'll inevitably end up applying more pressure to that ridge there. You are very likely to sand through the clear coat if you sand over edges like that. So stay away from edges. Now in this case the scuff goes almost right up to it, so I'm going to have to get very close to it. But some people put masking tape along edges like this so you can't possibly accidentally slip onto it. But be very careful when you're sanding sharp edges like that you don't sand through the clear coat and even the paint underneath. But with that in mind, what we're going to do is get the wet or dry wet. And then I'm going to start by doing 25 strokes horizontally, 25 strokes vertically, then we'll stop and clean it off and we'll take a look and see if we've got the scratches out. Now we probably won't have all the scratches out at that point and we'll have to do a little bit more sanding with the 1500 grit. But it's far better to find there's still some scratches in and then take some more material off than to find that you sanded through, because obviously you can go back and sand more clear coat off if you've got some left. You can't put the clear coat back on after you've sanded it off. So less talking, more doing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. And then vertically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Now, obviously it helps if you can count to 25 if you're making a video that involves counting to 25. But let's clean that off and see how it looks. So clean your panel down with clean water and then dry it off. A squeegee and an airline are very, very good if you have access to those. Otherwise just towel it down and just wait for it to dry and then take a look. And if you've not done this before, you're probably going to be pretty horrified at what you see, because you can have this large, flat, matte looking area, but that's okay, that's what we want. What you can also see here though is we still very obviously have scratches in there. By the time we finish with the 1500 grit paper, we need all of those scratches out, so we're going to go back and do a bit more wet sanding with the 1500 grit paper. So keep the paper nice and clean. What you don't want to do is catch any bits of dirt between the paper and the paint, because that will just put more scratches in. But let's go back and carefully do a little bit more wet sanding. So we're going to do another 25 strokes each way, and we'll keep doing that until we can't see any scratches anymore. Now as you're doing this, you'll notice you get this milky looking residue coming off. Milky is good. Milky is just what clear coat particles in water look like. What you don't want to see is any colour. You don't want to see, in this case, green water coming off, because that means you've sanded through your clear coat and you're now sanding the paint, the base coat underneath. But as long as we just see milky water coming off, the world is good. Right, I'll just carry on with that then. You come back at the end and we'll see how it's supposed to look by the time we move on to the next stage. And when you finish with the 1500 grit, that's what you'll be left with, a flat matte area feathering out onto the untouched paint. And then you're just going to repeat that process with the 2000 grit and then the 3000 grit paper. Now, with the 2000 grit paper, all you're doing is removing the sanding scratches from the 1500 grit. You're not really trying to remove any more material. And with the 3000 grit, all you're doing is removing the sanding scratches from the 2000 grit. So really all you're doing at this stage is polishing. You're not looking to go any deeper into the clear coat. So plenty of clean soapy water. You really don't want to get any grit caught between the paper and the paint at this stage. You don't want to put any scratches back in. We're really just polishing now. And by the time you finish with the 3000 grit, this is the sort of finish you're looking to achieve. Now if you look at the reflection of my fingers are here, out in the untouched paint, that surface is like a mirror. That's the sort of finish that we're looking to achieve in the end. But all we've done now is sanded this with the 3000 grit paper. You can see as I remove my fingers into the sanded area, you can see that although it's a little bit misty looking, you still definitely can see the reflection of my fingers in there. We're already so polished, even though we're only using wet or dry paper, that we're beginning to put a shine back into this surface. And when you've got that, when you can see your own reflection, if a little bit blurred, in the surface, then you're ready to do the compounding. For the compounding, get your power tool with your mop on the end, dip your mop into a bucket of clean soapy water, and then spin the tool to spin off the excess water. So the mop so the mop is damp but not wringing wet. Then take a compound and squirt it directly onto the repair. At first we need to get the scratches out, so we're going to apply a bit of pressure, and then as the polishing gets going we're going to ease up on the pressure. And what we're going to do is pick the compound up at about 10 o'clock with the mop, and then we're going to spread it out over the repair area. We're going to go 1 pass vertically, pass horizontally, and we're going to repeat that so make a total of 6 passes, 3 vertical and 3 horizontal. Take a clean microfiber cloth, wipe the excess compound off, and take a look. And it's not perfect because there's just a little spot there, look, where the dirt has got ground into the clear coat and stained it, and you can't polish that out. So it isn't perfect. However, it is pretty good. It's completely scratch free and it passes the paint rectification test, which is, can you see Emma Watson's reflection in it clearly enough that you'd be able to get yourself off? Yes. So with the compounding, start slow while you pick the compound up and spread it out over the repair area, and then crank up to full speed. Full speed for compounding is between about 1000 and 3000 RPM. The faster you go and the harder you press, the more aggressive you're being with the compound, so the more you'll tend to work out deep scratches, but also you'll also put new scratches in doing that as well. That's why we pressed reasonably firmly at the start and then lightened up for the last couple of those 6 passes. The other thing is work methodically over the entire work area and blend out into the untouched paint, and also keep moving. Don't stand still in one place, otherwise you'll get too much heat into it and you risk of burning the paint. But other than that, it's pretty much like you saw, and it doesn't take any longer than that. So, penultimate step, give it a coat of polish. Now the compound is an abrasive paste, and the polish is just a finer abrasive paste really. Now to be honest, this doesn't really need it, it's come out pretty much perfectly with a fine compound, but it won't do any harm. And then the last and best bit, very important that you only use your right hand. Wax on, and with your left hand only, clean cloth, wax off. Mr. Miyagi. Now, where's that picture of Emma Watson? I've got some unfinished business to attend to.